Okay, so that made for quite the day. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Pirates. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or hockey, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins in the same place that you found this. Our company's months-long investigation into the Pirates' finances was released yesterday on DK Pittsburgh Sports, reporting exclusively and confirmed exclusively that the team lost money in 2024. It had, it had quite the impact, to say the least. Even beyond the direct numbers to our website, the direct responses to yesterday's Daily Shot, which I can safely say were both unprecedented when it comes to baseball here in our world, and then everything else that follows, other media, social media, doing some shows today, various outlets. And, you know, this is the sort of thing that happens whenever everybody, myself included, thinks one way and then finds out something else. Try to be honest and upfront about this throughout. And part of that was letting people know why we were doing this investigation. It was because of a lack of trust between the public and the franchise, between the public and the owner of the franchise. Out of all that reaction, there are three things that I wanted to hit on with you here this morning regarding the response, regarding some of the things that were raised in the broader response. One of those was, well, if he's losing money, why doesn't he just sell? And I have a twofold answer to that. In addition to, boy, did I not see that subject coming up. I don't even link the two things, but okay. Nonetheless, the first one is Finances 101. If you're losing money and you sell something, you can have all the debt covered in the sale. That just happens all the time. The Celtics of the NBA were sold yesterday for $6.1 billion. For all we know, the 0.1 in there was enough to cover debt. The transaction is so enormous that the debt's a non-issue. The other variable in that is that, as I've been saying all along, the money that Nutting's building up by owning the franchise is, by owning the franchise. He keeps it, gets more valuable. Someday he'll be able to sell it for an unimaginable, many times over profit. It's never been about siphoning money off the operation, off the year-to-year stuff. And the other thing to sneak in on that subject is that he likes it. He likes owning the team. He likes the idea of passing it on to his daughter or daughters. So an insignificant or smallish amount of debt, which is exactly how I described it in this piece, isn't going to alter that. Two were a lot of questions about the Pirates' expenses that go beyond player payroll. I'm going to presume that part of the reason that a lot of questions came up in that regard was because the local newspaper did a piece a few days earlier that, I'm just going to say it, lazily assessed the Pirates' revenues, what they make, just based on tickets and concessions, and then one parenthetical mention of national TV money. The Pirates actually make way more money than that. The stuff that they talked about accounted for 1/3 of their total revenues. That's pretty irresponsible stuff to put out in public. And I don't feel the need to be the one who cleans that up. Let them or their editors clean that up. But also, this is forever how people have been talking about the Pirates' spending. It's just about player payroll. So when you throw them this other number, which, by the way, is virtually the same for all 30 teams, and it's even similar among other sports. In other words, it's similar locally between what the Steelers and the Penguins spend away from player payroll. This isn't some deep, dark, secret figure. Everyone's got it. Everyone has to run their actual business. And in the specific case of baseball, all of the drafting, all of the amateur acquisitions, international, Latin America, Asia, all of the minor league development, hotels, meals, major league travel, which is enormously expensive, maintenance of all the facilities, not just PNC Park, all the way down to the Dominican Academy, paying the humans who are not players. You know, team president, general manager, coaching staff, coaches all over creation, scouts worldwide. I actually was surprised that the number came in as low as 177, meaning 177 million, considering that it was confirmed to be 112 million about a decade ago. And the last one was about taxes, depreciation, and this is when the people who do money things for a living love to swoop in after a money thing is done, especially when it's done by a sports person, and say, aha, you forgot your GAAP or whatever else here. Everything's accounted for in that report. There's a paragraph in here that specifically says that once the Pirates are established to have had an operating loss of minus 2.2 million for 2024, all of that is before any and all loans and taxes and depreciation and all kinds of other stuff. And as such, again, this is in the report, it's likely that the amount of money that was actually lost in 2024 was greater than 2.2 million. Everything's in there. But again, I'll say this. The plus is, the positive is that this was read, this was considered, this was discussed and debated, and I'm sure it'll continue to be that for days to come. Before long, the annual Forbes estimates, and that's an emphasis on that word, estimates will be out, and you're going to see Forbes put down that the Pirates had a $75 million profit or something like that, when in fact, they are literally taking out loans to cover debt, and it'll probably start up all over again. My own bottom line here is to thank everybody who read it, to thank everybody who got all the way through it, because it wasn't short and it wasn't all that simple, and who at least considered it. How you feel about it, which is another one of the questions that I got, like, how are we supposed to feel about this? That's up to you. That's up to you. I just gave you the information and gave you some of my own viewpoints, and that was the end of that. When we come back, J1Q on Actual Baseball.
It's Gun Storage Check Week. Help prevent unwanted access to your firearms. No one wants their unsecured gun to be used in an accident, a suicide, or a crime. Use lockboxes, safes, and locks to secure your firearms. Learn more at gunstoragecheck.org. That's gunstoragecheck.org. Brought to you by NSSF, the Firearm Industry Trade Association.
Today's J1Q comes from Jordan, who asks, hey, DK, I've been asking myself all spring, would a potential Jared Jones injury ruin the power projection of this pitching staff? It's almost all that people talk about when they talk about the 2025 Pirates, and now that we might find out, what do you think? What does plugging one of our lovely, though untested arms in for Jones do to this rotation? The first thing I want to bring up here, Jordan, is that there's nothing definitive regarding Jones. He was shut down. He had the elbow discomfort. That's now the new term of choice in baseball. Instead of saying pain, they say discomfort. And he's not going to pitch again this spring. And as a result, I mean, I don't want to take my own diagnosis here too far, but if you're not pitching for a period of time, even if it's just the spring, you're losing your buildup, you're losing your momentum, and you're not just about to have somebody tap your forehead with a magic wand and you go out there and face the Marlins next week. It's going to shut him down, even if it's an optimal scenario. I mean, shut him down for part of the regular season. He's going to have to build his way back up. He's going to have to show that he's pain-free, and he's going to have to show some sort of resilience through that, meaning prove it over, 2 or 3 starts or something in that scale. I'm not sure why you chose to characterize your question as ruin the power projection of this pitching staff. How about just ruin this pitching staff? I don't know that you can overstate what a loss Jones would be for the rotation, or for that matter, your other 2 main guys, Paul Skeens and Mitch Keller. As it is, you would have a rotation of Skeens and Keller, Andrew Heaney, Bailey Falter, and in all likelihood, Thomas Harrington. Harrington, who's not pitched in the majors, he's one of those prospects that they really like. He's been the one who's hung around. He's still in the fold. He's getting starts. He's stretched out. And that's been mostly to cover against Falter potentially not being able to go. So one of the many things you're going to want to track here over the next few days is how active is Falter? How effective is Falter? If you have a rotation of Skeens, Keller, Heaney, Falter, and Harrington, no, that is not the same as having Jones in there. But unless I'm mistaken here and pick this up in your question, you say, what does plugging one of our lovely, though untested arms in do for this rotation? You might also have been referring to Bubba Chandler. I've made my stance clear on Chandler that I feel he could benefit from going back to Indy and working on some stuff, particularly from the efficiency standpoint. But you know what? Situations sometimes require you to do things a little bit out of turn. Chandler did not have a great start to his spring, but he did have a strong finish, and he did perform really well in that spring breakout game a week ago in Clearwater that was all prospects. But, I'm not here to offer a soft landing if Jones is hurt, never mind if he's seriously hurt. And if you're someone who believes in this franchise and where it's headed in 2025 and beyond, you will be crossing fingers and toes and everything else over this next week and change while the Pirates find out about Jones's status. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody who's been checking out Daily Shot of Pirates, not just this week with the report having been put out, but for months, even years. I'm flying down to Florida tomorrow. Going to have a mixed trip covering the Penguins for a couple of games against the Panthers and the Lightning and Sunrise and Tampa, and in between there, getting to the Pirates spring finale in Fort Myers, and then hanging around for the Pirates season opener 6 days from now in Miami. So all of this next week, all of this is going to be done from Florida. Talk to you again Monday.